Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. Coming to you Thanksgiving weekend, so just a heads up, we'll be probably running a playback on Thursday. We might surprise you with a little something, but more than likely we'll do a playback. We'll probably go rewind to the beginning of the season. And when we're discussing the prognostications to see where everybody stood and kind of give a rewind to everybody and see just how brilliant Charles Bishop was. And we'll leave it like that, you know, make sure his head don't get too big. But, you know, we're just saying. Some people get lucky sometimes. But we'll do it like that. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Episode 210 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to Case Waves 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in a beautiful home at Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that, let me go back to Charles. He already did the cigar life. Shout out this past Sunday if you were on there. You know, he's living the good life right now.
And I just keep it close. Yeah, I do keep it close here. So.
Slowburnswaco.com, slowburnswaco.com. They make sure they lace us, and right now they doing really well with the business between Jackson State and Prairie View. Oh, what did I just say? That news of the day, we have our SWAC championship game. A line, as you heard by that, it will feature Jackson State University getting it done against Prairie View A&M University. Prairie View does have a final game with Mississippi Valley this weekend, but due to Jackson State defeating Alcorn State, Prairie View has locked up the Western Division, so that will be your championship match. That should be interesting as things move forward. Anything you have to say early about that matchup? I know we'll get into it next weekend as appropriately, but any early buzz or thought process? I can say I understand that the ticket master went down Monday morning between Prairie View and Jackson folks trying to get tickets. I had folks texting me everywhere, what's the problem? Did they buy out all the tickets? You know, y'all have been known now with these 50, 60,000 folks in the crowd. You had some Prairie View folks really nervous. Like, did they buy the tickets? These folks trying to sign on 5 minutes before it went on. I text Ashley. I text the commissioner, Dr. Charles McCullough. I text Dr. Donald Reed at Prairie View. And literally about 5 minutes later, they had it updated. But I thought that was some big news, just how people are intrigued about this. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, tickets went on sale early yesterday, and they'll be on sale Monday and Tuesday this week. But already there's a buzz for this SWAC championship game. First time it's being played in Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium. And this Jackson State fan base, they are in a true lather for this football team. I tell you what, it's going to be a phenomenal experience. December 4th for Jackson State and Prairie View. Looking forward to those Prairie View Panthers coming on into Jackson and getting this SWAC championship game on. This is going to be a fun one. I think I told you, Dr. Bill, back midway through the season when I saw Prairie View against Pine Bluff, I knew then they were going to be a problem. They are a fast defense. They are offensively explosive. It's going to be a tough matchup for this Jackson State Tiger defense, but I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to get us a tremendous SWAC championship game.
And to your credit, I agree with you. I think this is going to be a tremendous matchup. I know a lot of folks are in between Jackson State and FAMU, rightfully so. That rivalry is heating up like it has done when they played for a semifinal championship FCS. Obviously, historians will go way past that with the championship back in the 50s, Black College Championships. So, yeah, a lot of history there, deservedly so. But to your credit, you said this in a lot of ways early on. You had a chance off weekend, just happened to be when Prairie was playing that Thursday night game against Pine Bluff, and you saw the team and you were thoroughly engaged in the matchup. Other folks were matched up, but in the suite, as we say it, so a lot of folks were doing the sweet things, but you were right there. And as it went down, you was like, hey, I'm get on back. I said, what you think? He said, oh, yeah, they're going to be all right. They'll be at the end. They'll be in there. So to your credit, you in some ways almost called both of these after you got in there. Now we got Mike all situated. We'll jump him in there. I like it. We have JSU representation, Jackson State. We have PVAMU, Prairie A&M University representation with Mike. We just jumped off really talking about the official announcement of Saturday, December 4th, Prairie A&M Western Division champs, Jackson State Eastern Division champs in terms of the SWAC formation. Obviously, we'll get into really some detailed talk next week, but just gave you a chance maybe to kind of give your general thoughts on that matchup, Mike.
Well, I think it's really exciting. You've seen a lot of stuff going across the the blast waves, the airwaves between CB and some of the various PV alumni, but I think it's exciting for the SWAC. I think you get to see two defenses going head-to-head against each other, despite what's happening at the ticket office, but we won't say anything about that. I think some home cooking happened right there. So needless to say, I think Panther Nation will descend upon Jackson. You look for that. You look for several. You look for several battles. You look for that Juwan Pass Shador Sanders battle. You look for the defense against defense battle. So there's a lot of micro battles that are you're already looking forward to. And of course, Prairie View has Mississippi Valley, so we can't overlook that. But I think Prairie View is up for the challenge. They're ready for it. They spoke to it 3 weeks ago. They spoke it into an existence. So I think they're ready. So I look forward to it.
Last thing I'll say here, those that have their institutions, and you have some people that are intrigued about representing their institutions like we do with the 1876 Sports and Culture with the pregame, you might want to hit up Roy at my BCSN. I'm just saying the two programs that cover the institutions, they found their way in the championship game, and you got fam talk about participating in the FCS playoffs, and you got ONG strike zone. So it's intriguing about that. Obviously, maybe it's just a little blessing in disguise, but thought I'd point it out there. With that being said, I wanted to give some love as we are talk about the legendary Ralph Cooper. Jimmy reminds us that Ralph Cooper called this back out in terms of this specific matchup back in September. He said Jackson State and Prairie in the championship game. So he picked both sides from the beginning. Credit to him in a lot of ways. With that, let me go back in here. We talk about Florida A&M selected to participate in the 2021 FCS playoffs. I want to give you a chance both to talk about that. Before we do that, I do want to shout out to the lab listeners out here as they get it going on. Ricky Burton, Amos Fawcett is in the house. Shout out to Amos. We got a good little dialogue going on in Facebook. He's asking some great questions there as we do it and make sure that we provide some talk about what do we think about HBCU programs, particularly at the FCS level. Wendell Davis, Michael Ford is on here. Chad Cooper bringing in the house. Michael Lee, he says prayers for Coach Sanders. Go PVAMU. He can't get over that rivalry. I love it, though. We'll take it. Jimmy Wilson says happy birthday for those that he is speaking to. Willie Alex Hine, Karen Griffin is always in the house. Alan Malone, G. Boom Holly doing his thing. Lonnie Shaw is in the house as always. James Knox, A.D. Drew is in the building. Lawrence D. White, Jamie Walker, as he does the thing. Dr. Roderick Holmes, he told me earlier that he'd be listening in. He's excited about what's going on. Had some good conversation before you get in here. Do we have, is that Neely? Christopher Darrell? Who's that in the house? James Knox. Gabe Lewis is in the house. His son, shout out to his son that plays offensive line for Prairie A&M University. I'll be spotlighting that matchup. That will be interesting as he's been getting down. Look for him to be on first team, all SWAC, certainly second team. I'm intrigued to see what he gets done. He's a road grader. He gets it done in a lot of ways. Carl Moore in the house. Chris Tucker, Roy, as always, the extraordinaire. Talking about what about the Lady Rattlers and SWAC Championship Volleyball? Yes,
Roy, we gonna get there.
Yeah, we got the first 15. But since you did that, shout out to the Rattlers defeating Jackson State. They officially are members of the SWAC now. They've earned their first SWAC championship, and it is in the sport of volleyball. Classic matchup. These two teams, I told you going into the weekend, one of the ones that I had my eyes on, they split in the regular season. FAMU came into conference race, getting some non-conference big wins. Jackson State, though, literally striked down the FAMU Rattlers in their first matchup at home. Then late in the season, the Rattlers struck back and got a little payback. And it was blessings in a lot of ways that when you got to watch this game, that it would go 5 set. FAMU struck first in the first set. Jackson State bounced back and ended up getting the next 2. Fourth set, FAMU got it going on. You knew it was a classic because in their second match, it went actually to extra points. You got to win but 2 because you're supposed to go to 25. Obviously, in the fifth match, it only goes to 15. FAMU was able to jump out there early. Jackson State fought back, but because of that early lead, they couldn't get past that 2-point deficit, and FAMU was able to get to 15 first, and the rest is history as they will go in the books going down. I want to give some love to the women in terms of the MEAC. Howard got it done against Delaware. They were tied regular season, but Howard really empowered them. They were at home. I'm sure that home court advantage did it in for them. But I wanted to get your thoughts before we go to this first break. I'll start with you, Charles, in terms of FAMU going into the 21 playoffs. I tried to tell everybody very early on. I have my sources, and I understood the work that was going on in the backdrop. FAMU did what they needed to do on the field, coaching-wise, but there were power brokers that made sure that they were going to get a shot, which was important. Things certainly broke their way that made it real easy. And you could tell even from the broadcast that it was meant to be in a lot of ways. But kudos, this is a statement for the SWAC, just in my opinion. But let me go to you, Charles, and get your opinion on FAMU in the FCS playoffs first round against Southeastern Louisiana.
And congratulations to Florida A&M being selected into the FCS playoffs. Testament to Coach Willie Simmons and his program down there at Tallahassee. And you know, you can't say enough about it. They did what they had to do. 8-game winning streak. They took care of business. But I think they've laid out a blueprint for the future in terms of teams looking to get to the playoffs. If they're not, going to be in the mix there for the Celebration Bowl, to lay out that case soon enough so people start talking about it and people make sure that they're watching it. And they did what they had to do on the field. So you take your hats off to that Florida A&M program. Tremendous defense, number 1 defense in the nation. It will be an exciting matchup this upcoming Saturday, going against the number 1 of the top offenses in the nation, Cole Kelly for Southeast. He is the number 1 quarterback. He's thrown for over 4,300 yards this past season. So, and then you have Isaiah Land. This is going to be a battle of strengths, if you will. This Florida A&M defense, they're impressive. So we'll get an opportunity to see can Florida A&M make an impressive showing, not just for Florida A&M, but for the Southwestern Athletic Conference for HBCU football.
Mike, want to get your thoughts. Obviously, FAMU, for the historians out there, won the inaugural, at that time, 1AA playoff in 1978, getting it done. They'll play to get their second shot in terms of what we now call the FCS playoffs. As we said, Southeastern Louisiana Lions in Hammond, Louisiana. Saturday, November 27th at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. The game will be on ESPN Plus. Mike, what are your thoughts?
No, I'd like to just piggyback on what CB said. I mean, you had a tremendous hats off to, Coach Simmons and the entire, Rattler Nation. I'm not going to say Rattler too many times in this program. I'm just going to say that. So, but congratulations to them. They have set the blueprint. I think the important thing is this is a win not just for FAMU, but this is something for the SWAC. This has laid the blueprint. This has laid, the further laid the line and set the precedence for further consideration in the future. So, congratulations, fam. I think. What is it? Is it the first time that FAM or any other team has made it? This FAM has made it here since 1996, 97. I don't want to get my numbers off, but
first SWAC team that's gone to the playoffs since Jackson State, 1997.
That's right. So hats off. But this is a bigger win to me. This is a win for the SWAC. So I look forward. They're facing a tough team. I look for a tough battle. This team went tit for tat against University Incarnate Word, I believe. Lost by 2 or 3 points during the regular season. Both teams have high-powered offenses. So FAMU, 8-game winning streak, strong defense. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think FAMU has a very, very good chance for a strong showing here.
Great points made by both. Shout out to Fayetteville State, wins second straight CIAA volleyball championship. Want to make sure we share them some love. Before we go to this break, Michael Ford says, could a team who wins the East-West not play in the SWAC championship game and play in the playoffs? The answer to that is no. They are contractually obligated to play in the SWAC championship game, and that's beside the point in terms of the financial windfall. I think it's important to talk about this. Jackson State, for you all don't realize this, you cannot play sports without the financial revenue associated with it. Jackson State will get $2 million in terms of ticket sales alone to host this championship game. The previous years, Alcorn, their 2 straight years at home, they did $1 million. Now imagine what that does to the community involved and how that now helps the community folks come back and support your institution. When you talk about the power brokers out there, there's the reason why they play in these bowl games. There's a reason why they play at home in their stadiums and not look at the playoffs where you got to pay money to play. Until the playoff changes where it's financially beneficial, it makes absolutely no sense for any institutions, particularly SWAC, because they have options not to play in it. And this doesn't even talk about the Celebration Bowl where you get $1 million. So to think that you're going to forego that just for the playoffs does not make any economic financial sense. And if you're running a business, you're not going to do it. So I really think it's irresponsible and really downright disrespectful in a lot of ways for folks to put that out there without at least doing the homework. But if you're asking that just because you don't know, hopefully I've given you some information so you know that. Let's get into a break. This is Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop. We'll be right back after this break.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. high-quality cigars, plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place, a space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they want to tab, I'ma do the dab, yeah. Press the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, yeah, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, yes, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Before we get into the poll, I did want to shout out to my FAMU alumni, Byron Gauthier, previous president of Alpha Eta Lambda. Sorry I couldn't get out there with you to celebrate the founding day of the chapter on Friday. I got into some shenanigans in terms of taking care of my son there. All seriousness. But I did want to shout out, he says that FAMU was in the playoffs, which is correct. Roy mentioned that in 2001. Notice Charles said in terms of the SWAC, now you level set in terms of the SWAC. You set the new trend in terms of coming in 2021. At that time, FAMU was still part of the MEAC. But yes, in terms of FAMU, they were in the playoffs in 2001. In terms of SWAC, it goes back to 1998. With that being said, I think AD has some points, and we'll bring that up. What was AD asking a question on?
He wanted you to talk about the cultural side of the playoffs versus the Celebration Bowl. And somehow we have a lot of our HBCU fans think that playing in the Celebration Bowl is somehow settling for less than the playoffs. So we wanted to make sure that you touched on that in particular.
Man, y'all don't want me to go there again. I told y'all
please go there.
Just because we have folks that are not culturally aware, to be frank with you. I talked about those that look into perceptions of being the proximity to whiteness. That's what that is. You all may not want to term it that, but in no world does it exist where you have an opportunity to make millions of dollars for your institution. Are you going to turn that down because somebody else tells you that there's a better value in something else? Even when the institutions that participate in the 1AA playoffs or the FCS, every opportunity they have a chance to get away from it, they move up to the FBS division where they know they're not going to play for a top 4 playoff or even 12 when they explain it. They're playing for the bowls because they know there's more revenue associated with their institution, which is what drives college athletics, the ability to have revenue such that you can compete at a high level and lower the expenses to your students. So anybody that has any grain of salt about the business sports, it's not even close. The historically white colleges that you claiming to chase in these playoffs, they don't even believe in the playoffs. They have no other choice. They have been quoted as telling you if they had the option of a Heritage Bowl, now a Celebration Bowl with $1 million, they would chase. In fact, we just seen conference churning where you have 2 of the 3 teams in the playoffs that have chosen to move up. James Madison is moving to the FBS. This has nothing to do with culture. This has to do with ignorance. People do not understand the business sport. And I have to be blunt like this, but this is what I do in my class lecture. I tell my students straight up so they understand the business sport. Because you know what happens if they come in there with that craziness? They're going to get fired in the business. Sam Houston State, they just won a FCS championship, moving to the FBS level. Jacksonville State, they won a championship or played for a championship a couple of years ago. That switched conferences because things weren't going right.
Right.
Before they can even play a good season in the ASUN, because it's right now a mixed AQ7, they are moving to the FBS level. It's the revenue associated with being at the highest level as possible. Stop being insulting and study the business of sport and quit belittling the opportunity that your institutions have to make revenue, because you're really simply showing your ignorance. I can't get any plainer than that.
Yep.
The Bowie State Bulldogs remain #1 for the 4th straight week. I won't bore you with the entire poll because it did not change this week. We'll get into the fact that Bowie State won in the playoffs and Albany State did not. We did talk about that a little bit Saturday. We'll talk about the matchup this week. I did want to get a little bit into the major division top 10 poll rankings. There were some slight changes there, so I think it's important to jump in that poll. So let's bring up the FCS major division poll rankings for week number 12. Jackson State getting the 8th straight week as they get it done. Going in at #1 is none other than North Carolina A&T State Aggies. They fall 3 spots. They're able to stay in the poll. Delaware State falls out, but A&T, although they lost last week, 5-6, 3-4, they stay in the poll along with number 9, Hampton Pirates, 5-6 and 3-4, 25 points. I think both of them would admit that they had disappointing seasons in the Big South. A&T, especially for their inaugural season. Hampton Pirates may felt that they gotten a little better this time, but it was tough losing to 2 teams that were had losing records in terms of the poll. So you think you have a chance to get a winning record closing out the season, which is a nice statement. It was not to be, but they are in the poll at 9 and 10. And number 8, Norfolk State Spartans closed with 3 straight losses. They got as high as top 4 in the poll rankings. They closed out the season with 3 straight losses. Disappointing in a lot of ways, 6-5, 2-3. Not ranked, but they do jump back in the polls because Delaware State falls out. At number 7, Auckland State Braves at 6-5, 5-3, 53 points. Dropped 2 spots. Up and down season. I think the long road, all the road games really at some point caught up with them, but they played with the heart of champions. They did give Prairie that ends up winning the West their loss, so that's a statement in itself. At number 6, North Carolina Central Eagles finished at 6-5, 4-1, 60 points. This is a team that's intriguing to me in terms of where they found the season. They kind of went up and down. Obviously had the big win in the Celebration Bowl, so they find themselves ranked ahead of Auburn State. Had some tough losses, but they finished the MEAC 4-1, and South Carolina loss that was right there for them. They could have been back in the Celebration Bowl, so intriguing to see how that goes next year moving forward. At number 5, you get to those South Carolina State Bulldogs, 6-5, 5-0. They really fought out of the hole, starting the season with a tough schedule, losing to FAMU, Alabama A&M to kick off the season, starting out 0-4, but they rebound and win the conference, going undefeated in MEAC play, 6-5 overall. They move up 3 spots. At number 4, Prairie A&M, 7-3 and 6-1, 96 points, losing to Texas A&M. They dropped 1 spot. At number 3, Alabama A&M Bulldogs. They closed out the season really strong, 7-3, 5-3, 9-9, 4th place. I wondered if they started talking about the playoffs early, and if they could have found out and not had that real upset loss to Grambling, would they have had a fighting chance at 8-2? Not playing the 11th game probably really hurt them. At number 2, Florida A&M Rattlers, 9-2, 7-1, 1 first place vote for 118 points. Giving you the number 1 Jackson State. They continue to get it done. 7 straight weeks. They've gotten that number 1 spot, and they do not seem to want to let it go. 10-1, 8-0, 12 first place votes, 129 points, but they will play the West champion. It becomes a win-all matchup. It should be fascinating to see. Going to you, Mike, Professor Washington, what are your thoughts in terms of the top 10 poll rankings in week number 12?
Couple of games. Week 12, here we are. We started in week 1. Which side of the conference had the best 3 teams? Looks like who played it out? Jackson State, FAMU, Alabama A&M. Although I disagree with the Alabama A&M ranking above Prairie View, you still have the SWAC champion. Alabama A&M a 3-touchdown favor over UAPB. I get it. PV lost big time to Texas A&M. I still think that your SWAC West champion is your number 3 team. They still have the 3rd or 4th best team in the SWAC. So pound for pound, if you compare them, I still think Prairie View meets the eye test and is the better team. It should be still ranked number 3. That's just me. I get it. I understand how the rankings go. Other than that, I just find it fascinating, Doc, when you gave us that homework assignment and how it's shaken out. You got Jackson State, FAMU, and Alabama A&M. A lot of people picked those 3, but in a different order. And then some of the people had picked UAPB and Prairie View and Alcorn to be the best 3. So it's just interesting how that homework assignment has made its way here into week 12.
Yeah, certainly in the poll. I like the way you put that out there. Good job, Professor Washington. Professor Bishop, what do you have to say about the top 10 poll ranking?
Has the balance of power in the Southwestern Athletic Conference finally shifted to the SWAC East? When you take a look at Jackson State, Florida A&M, and Alabama A&M, 1, 2, 3 in the polls. I think, Mike, you make a valid argument. I think I probably would have had Prairie View probably sitting there at 3 and maybe Alabama A&M under them. But again, it speaks to the strength of the SWAC East this past season with these 3 teams. And for how long have we taken a look at it? I was telling somebody that this is such a cyclical deal, the SWAC West, for quite some time. I would argue that probably the top 3 teams out of 4 in the SWAC are over there in the SWAC West. When you're talking about Grambling, Southern, and Prairie View. I think, Dr. Bill, you mentioned Prairie View since 2010 had one of the winningest records in the SWAC with the number of wins that they've had. So the question for me becomes, has the SWAC East wrestled away that mantle from the SWAC West in terms of perception?
Yep.
Charles, go ahead, Mike. You want to jump in there and say a piece about that before we go to this break?
No, I would just say my points exactly. Has the SWAC East come in and taken that mantle from the SWAC West, which was arguably tops for a while? Did you expect FAMU and Bethune, or especially FAM, to make that much of an impact? Did you expect even Alabama A&M going to spring, coming to the fall, to make that big of a splash? So it would appear that the balance of power has at least temporarily shifted. The question I have is now, what does this do for recruiting?
Oh, yeah, that's be fascinating. Early December and certainly in February. I will say this as we go to the break. In year number 1, or should I say 101, it certainly has shifted to the east. Was be fascinating to see over the next couple of years. Does it maintain its character in the east, or do we see some level set and shift back to the west, or will it just float in between? This is Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We'll be right back. Second half of the show. Get into the break. Mike, sneak in and give you an update on the Marching Sport poll, since you'll be doing some turkey diving on Thursday. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, yeah, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville inside HBCU Sports Lab. Great chatter as we go into Turkey Day weekend. And we will get into some of that Turkey Day Classic. Turn on your TV on Thursday. You got Alabama State and Tuskegee. Those that want to get in a little mix before they watch some of the maybe the professional games for the night capital and get into some NBA action. You will see that on Turkey Day. You got the college HBCU game, and then you got the Bayou Classic. Yes, it's not for the Marbles this year, but still a lot on the line. You got that Prairie View, Mississippi Valley matchup, as well as FAMU against Southeastern Louisiana. Should be fascinating matchups. And let's not forget, you have Bowie State Bulldogs in the second round of the playoffs as they keep it going, as they pretty much have locked up the mid-major rankings there. With that being said, let me sneak this in there. I do want to get in the band rankings. There's some changes this week in terms of this, so let me just jump in there. Number 10, you have the South Carolina State Marching 101. They moved to 3-1 and jumped into the poll. A&T falls out because of what South Carolina State was able to do. This may set up a matchup in the Celebration Bowl. We'll see what that means in terms of some of these programs. Number 9, you have Alcorn State falling one spot as they lost to Jackson State. Some people said that the sound of dynamite made it interesting now.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Number 8, Prairie A&M, the Marching Storms, is sitting on the sideline. Luckily, they have a matchup with Jackson State. See if they can make that interesting. At number 7, they fall a spot. At number 7, Bethune-Cookman Marching Wildcats 2-1, 0-1. They get into a narrow loss as they tried to stay undefeated, not to be done in terms of the Florida Classic. As FAMU got it. I heard that one was actually pretty darn close, but they fall 2 spots. Number 6, one of the biggest moves of the week is Alabama State moving up 3 spots. They got a fortunate matchup as Texas Southern made the road trip, so created a matchup. Texas Southern showed out. Alabama State has had 2 close losses, one to FAMU in terms of they got a little representation on the road. They went to Jackson State, had a very close contest. They had another close contest, but this one, they get the nod. They get it done against the Texas Southern Ocean of Souls. So they're 4-2, 1-3 in terms of getting that matchup. So they move up 3 spots. Bringing us to the top 5. When you get in the top 5, Kentucky State, mighty marching thoroughbreds, because of the Bethune-Cookman loss, they jump up as they are undefeated. They jump into the top 5, 1 spot up from number 6. Brings us to number 4, Norfolk State Spartan, the Legion Marching Band, 4-1, 2-0, 69 points. They get it done as they got a big win a couple of weeks ago. Number 3, Jackson State Sonic Boom on the South, 6-2, 4-2. They do get the win, but they stay at the 3 spot. At number 2, Florida A&M, the Marching 100, 5-1, 3-1, 3 first place votes, 84 points. It'll be interesting to Jackson State because they have made it to the championship game. They get the benefit that they're going to get an extra game matchup. Does that allow them to jump FAMU or even find a way to get into the Southern, although they had that head-to-head loss? Southern Jaguars do have the benefit of the Bayou this weekend. They're 7-0, 5-0, first place votes, 90 points, get it done. Let me go to Professor Washington first, and then we'll let Charles give us things in terms of matchup. Oh, it looks like
Doc,
you folks are not happy.
Doc, man, what happened to this poll? What you do with who voted in this poll? And what were they drinking? Because I want to sip some of what they were drinking. First of all, I really want to sip what they were drinking. So first of all, I agree. I think Dwight Moore had a comment about Bethune. Bethune did. I checked some of that out. I'm not a band aficionado. I'm not an expert, but it was quite obvious that Bethune was not Bethune against FAMU. Second of all, Prairie View got a standing ovation at Texas A&M, and you got them at number 8. Number 8.
Now hold on, wait. And they got a standing ovation in front of other folks.
Yes, and then you had
right.
and you had an article from what was it? The Undefeated, ranking Florida Memorial and Prairie View as the number 1 top bands. Now you can weigh that as you will. but you have another source touting Prairie View as a top band, and you got them at the bottom 5. What is wrong with this poll? What is wrong? Something's wrong here. I don't think Bethune should be where they are. They were clearly outmatched, outgunned. So I think we need some rework and redesign on this poll.
All right, your turn, Professor Bishop.
I will say the surprise of the poll all season has been the Alcorn Sounds of Dynamite. They went and held their own tough down there at Southern against Human Jukebox. Same thing happened this weekend. And a lot of times I'm listening to these real serious band heads, give their opinions week in, week out. And they have held up for the Alcorn Sounds of Dynamite all year in terms of their arrangements and their sound and things of that nature. But you know what, Mike? I'm willing to go with you with the Marching Storm. But now everybody gets an opportunity to see the Storm come out of Prairie View and what they can do this weekend, or next weekend, I should say, in front of a national audience. So everybody gets an opportunity to see what the Marching Storm is about. We've been deprived of consistently watching the Marching Storm.
That's right. We've been deprived. We're about to see it. Now, I will give hats off to Norfolk State. I think they were up there. They had, for the size bound and for their musicianship, they're pretty good. I'll go with you on Alcorn. The rest of this, I don't know what y'all drinking when y'all voting this poll, man. That must be over Brotherhood Smoke or something.
I'm tired. I'm not going with y'all. We're going to move on. That's enough of that. We're going to go into the number 2 seed Bowie State Bulldogs at home again. This time they faced Newberry Wolves, 10-2, 71 at the Bowie State Bulldogs that improved to 11-1, 11 straight victories, 7-0 as you know it, as they did in the CIAA conference race. Sticking with you, Charles Bishop, what are the Bulldogs' chances against Wolves moving on to the 3rd round?
You know what? I really like Bowie State to move forward in this game. Obviously, that was a huge upset with Newberry taking out West Florida, but I just love the way the playmakers for Bowie State seem to step up week in, week out. We know Jerome Johnson is going to be making plays on the offensive side of the ball. He is one of the most dangerous dual combo athletes, I believe, in Division II. When you talk about he's able to get it done, throwing as well as running. And then Bowie State, they play tough defense. So I love them moving forward.
Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of the Bulldogs? Can they get it done against the Wolves?
No, I like their chances as well. Like Jerome Johnson is playing at a high level. So, and their defense is really well. They're, what are they, 11-1? So they remember that one loss again that they had at the beginning of the season. They haven't lost since then. They've been they've been, lights out on both sides of the ball. And I like their chances going into this next round of the playoffs.
I want to do a little shout out as before we get into the mid-major with Tuskegee going up against the major Division IV Alabama State for the Turkey Day Classic. I do want to get into a little bit of round ball. Chris Paul, inaugural tip-off championship game featured CIAA matchup, Virginia Union Panthers against Winston-Salem Rams. Panthers get it done and take home the ship in the inaugural. You did have Morehouse out of the CIAA against West Virginia. West Virginia got the consolation game as they defeat Morehouse. Give them some love there. I also want to give a shout out to Norfolk State in terms of basketball. They started off the season undefeated. I think they had their first loss. They've won 4 games, 3 Division I games, so they're getting it done in a lot of ways. We're getting a little more of that basketball. Also, shout out to the SWAC in between Alabama A&M defeating Tennessee State earlier in the update the season. And then you had a match that I watched with Alabama State go to overtime and get it done against North Carolina Central Eagles. Coach Mouton, anytime you can beat the Eagles.
Big win.
Yeah,
Coach Mouton, big win. It was at home for Alabama State, so I do want to put that out there. This Saturday, we got a couple of key matchups with Tennessee State and Southern that I'm interested in. Then you have Hamlin against that Norfolk State I talked about. So I'll be watching that quietly on Sunday after I catch all my HBCU football games that Saturday and obviously one on Sunday there. Talking about that, before we go to this last break, want to get into Montgomery. On Thursday, Alabama State. You got Tuskegee at Alabama State. Let's get into this break, and we'll come back with that matchup. Golden Tigers 3-7, 2-4 at Alabama State 4-6, 3-5. Both teams obviously losing records, but a lot of pride is on the line for this matchup. So it'll be interesting to see your thoughts on that. Let's get into this break. We'll be right back after this last break as we get into the fourth quarter.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell them mama hungry.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I told you a little bit that we wanted to run down there. Let's get into this and get your thoughts. Charles Bishop, Tuskegee at Alabama State. What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
Big win, I think, this past week for Alabama State that I think went under the radar. A nice win over Texas Southern. Texas Southern has been playing very improved football, but I noticed that win with Alabama State, and they finally got that running game up and going against Texas Southern. Ja'Cory Merritt and Ezra Gray had pretty big games, so I look for them to carry over that same momentum into this tough matchup against Tuskegee. Both have had disappointing years, but I like the Hornets in this one.
Yeah,
Mike?
Yeah, I look for Ezra Gray to come out. He came out in this last game. I look for him to have a big game against Tuskegee. They have a good defense, but I think over the course of 4 quarters, I think that running attack for Alabama State will just overwhelm Tuskegee. And I look for Alabama State to come out with a solid win on Turkey Day.
Let me stick with you, Mike, in terms of the Bayou Clash. The Grambling State Tigers 3-7, 2-5. Southern Jaguars 4-6, 3-4. Oddly enough, this is a battle between 2 interim coaches. What do you think about this matchup?
You wish it had the luster that it had of the past, but I think there's still bragging rights here. I look for Southern to come out on top. Believe it or not, even though Grambling has shown some signs of life in the last few games at times, I look for Southern to come out here on top in the Grambling in the Classic. So I'll be interesting also to see the Battle of the Bands. I'll throw that one in there as well because Grambling kind of lost some footage from my perspective in their Barron performance. I'm not a band aficionado again, but I'll see that. But I look for Southern to come out on top. They played at times solid on both sides of the ball. They had a win against Alcorn State, so we'll see.
Yeah, not a band aficionado, but you do well with the wines. Let me go to golf aficionado Charles Bishop in terms of that. And maybe you'll be not as nice as Charles in terms of the matchup. What do you think about Grambling State Tigers and Southern Jaguars? Are you going to take the nice roll? Can Southern Jaguars at least get the 500 in conference play?
I think Southern gets 500 in conference play. I do like I still like their running game. But I tell you what, Terrence Graves is going to have his Grambling Tigers football team ready to go. Watching for a long time in this conference. I mean, he's a tremendous personality. I know he'll have beyond it being a rivalry game, he'll have these Grambling Tigers ready to go in this game. But at the end of the day, I just think Southern's running game is still a little bit too strong, and they have some guys back from injury on the defensive side of the ball. I think it'll make it a tough day for Grambling.
Let me stick with it in terms of the SWAC matchup. Valley travels to Prairie View. Valley's 3-7, 2-5 in conference race. Plays really well, tough, outshine a lot of folks at home, but not quite the same on the road. You got number 4 Prairie View and Panthers, 7-3, 6-1. Getting prepared for the following week with the championship matchup. Charles, what do you think in terms of this game? The pressure is not quite the same as it could have been if all 4 had defeated Jackson State.
Yeah, I think the question, I think I asked Coach Dooley this, how do you prepare, put a game plan together for Mississippi Valley and look ahead toward playing in the SWAC championship game? I think the question for me is, how much do we see the Prairie View starters in this game? I know Coach Dooley likes to spot the ball, but I want to make sure that I'm healthy going into the SWAC championship game. So I still like Prairie View at home, but it'll be interesting to see what he does with a lot of players' time, a lot of starters' time out.
Yeah, especially for those that may have a couple of nicks. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
I have the same question. They're coming off a game where some of their folks got beat up against Texas A&M. You're looking ahead to the championship game. You wonder, how long is he going to keep the starters in? At the same point, does he take this time to kind of, knock some of the kinks out of the offense? If you look at some of their previous wins, their most recent wins, they've started out a little bit slow and had to play catch up in the second half. So does he take that opportunity, at least in the first half, to knock out some of the kinks in the offense, try some new wrinkles, and then pull the starters out? It'll be interesting to see what that perspective is. I think at the end of the day, Valley will play well, but they don't play as well as they do in Itabena. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, what would you say is the last game that Prairie View looked like Prairie View?
Woo. I'd have to go back to Southern.
Interesting.
Southern. They were strong, and that was on the road. So dominant. So
talk particularly for a full game. When you say that, let me get in this last matchup real quick. The playoff game for FAMU, number 2. HBCU at Southeastern Louisiana, 8-3, 6-2. FAMU comes in 9-2, 7-1. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup?
I'm sorry, your thing froze. I'm sorry. The sound.
Yeah, I'm just saying the FAMU matchup at Southeastern. I know you kind of talked about it. Any last key things that you want to talk about in this matchup?
Yeah, sorry about that. I missed that. I look for FAMU's defense, which again has exponentially continued to improve. I look for them to take on a stronger hold. They're playing a really top offense. I think that offense is number 2, 3 in the Southland Conference. So they're playing, but I look for FAMU to bring a strong offensive front and look for them to get a couple of key stops. I don't know how it'll shake out. Offensively they haven't developed as fast as the defense. I look for a couple of key plays on special teams as well. I look for them to be very competitive. I won't say what the outcome of the score is, but I look for FAMU to be very competitive.
Charles, what are your thoughts?
This game is going to come down to time of possession. Can Florida A&M keep Southeastern's offense off the field? Cole Kelly is one of the top quarterbacks in the nation. He's thrown for over 4,300 yards. But this comes down to Bishop Bonnet, comes down to Terrell Jennings, Jalen McLeod, all 3 of those guys in terms of being able to run the football. And Florida A&M's offensive line, can they repeat the same performance that they had against Bethune-Cookman? They cleared away for 276 yards in that game. So this is about Florida A&M playing a little bit of keep away and letting their defense do what they do in terms of teeing off on the passing quarterbacks. Isaiah Land getting that push off the edge. And then Florida A&M, what's gone underrated is the push they get up the middle too. They do a tremendous job of pushing the pocket right from in the middle of the line. So it'll be very interesting to see can Florida A&M get to Cole Kelly and make some plays. And then I think from a special team standpoint, I like the guy. He's been an X factor all season for him, Jamari Sharif, if I'm saying his name correctly. But that young man has been a nice X factor for Florida A&M all season.
Yep. I definitely think they'll have to win through their defense. It'll be the key in some way, form, or fashion.
Big points there. Talking about defense, I did want to say 25 players are named finalists to the Buck Buchanan Awards. 4 of them are HBCU players, including 2 for FAMU. Safety Marquise Bell, linebacker Isaiah Land. You have 1 from Jackson State, linebacker James Houston has been dynamite all year long. And South Carolina State defensive back Jacoby Durant. Interesting that all 4 of these players are playing on teams that are in postseason play, if you would allow it. Then also want to give a shout out to Coach Prime as well as Coach Pough for South Carolina State, as they are finalists for the Eddie Robinson Award. So I wanted to get that out there. Thank you for listening to Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Let me go back and say that information was courtesy of HBCU Game Day. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab, College HBCU Sports with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. Again, check out as we go back and take you back in time, beginning of this season, as we talk about what we thought the season would be. Check that out if you get some time and need a little break, as we will take a break with you on Thanksgiving. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab, starting with Sunday at 9. We'll talk about all things that happen Saturday and give you a sneak preview as we get into the SWAC championship game. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's DrKenyattaCavil. That is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismiss. Have a good one.